What happens when an undercover boss catches one of his own employees secretly giving away discounts to friends, only to discover a deeper truth that changes everything? The sound of the register slamming shut caught Ethan's attention, but it was the low voice of the cashier that made him turn his head. Ethan Grayson, CEO of Quick Mart convenience stores, stood quietly in the snack aisle, pretending to browse the shelves. He had spent years building Quick Mart into a trusted name, one known for fair prices, friendly service, and strong community ties. But lately, things had started slipping. Customer complaints had increased. Missing inventory, pricing inconsistencies, and whispers that certain employees were bending the rules. Instead of relying on managers to fix things, Ethan decided to visit one of the struggling stores himself, dressed casually in jeans and a hoodie to blend in as just another customer. From the moment Ethan walked inside, he sensed something was off. The store felt chaotic, shelves were disorganized, and the cashier, Brandon, looked distracted and irritable. As Ethan watched from the back of the store, a pair of teenagers approached the counter, one wearing a baseball cap low over his eyes. "Yo, Brandon," the kid called out. "Hook me up, man." "You know I got you," Brandon muttered with a smirk. Ethan stepped closer, watching intently. Brandon rang up several items, energy drinks, snacks, and even a pack of batteries. But when he gave the total, Ethan noticed something odd. The total seemed too low. "That's it?" the teenager asked with a grin. "Yeah," Brandon winked. "I took care of you. You're the man." The teen laughed, grabbing the bag. Ethan's jaw tightened. So that's what's been happening, he thought. Employees were giving unauthorized discounts to their friends, and Brandon didn't seem to care. Ethan approached the counter, placing a bottle of water and a protein bar on the counter. "That'll be $3.79, Brandon muttered, without even looking up. "Looks like your friend got a better deal," Ethan said casually. Brandon's eyes flicked up, narrowing suspiciously. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I saw what you did," Ethan said evenly. "You knocked a few dollars off their total. Doesn't seem fair, does it?" Brandon's face darkened. "Mind your own business," he snapped. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know enough," Ethan said firmly. "And trust me, we're going to talk about it soon," Brandon scoffed. "Whatever." That evening, Ethan lingered near the store's entrance, watching as Brandon closed up. When the lights dimmed and Brandon stepped outside, Ethan followed him, down the street. To Ethan's surprise, Brandon didn't head home. Instead, he walked toward a small apartment complex and climbed the steps to a second-floor unit. Moments later, Ethan spotted someone at the window, a young boy, no older than 10. The child's face lit up as Brandon handed him a small paper bag, the same bag from the store. Curious, Ethan waited until Brandon left the building before approaching the apartment. He knocked on the door, and a tired-looking woman answered. Brandon's mother, Celia. "Can I help you?" she asked wearily. I'm a customer from Quick Mart," Ethan began. "I saw Brandon earlier. Is everything okay?" Celia sighed. "I'm sorry if he was rude," she said. "He's been working a lot of extra shifts, trying to keep us afloat." "Is that why he's been giving discounts?" Ethan asked carefully. Celia's face tightened. "He's not a bad kid," she said. "It's just been hard since his dad left. Brandon's been helping pay the bills, and sometimes he tries to help his friends too." Ethan nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. Brandon wasn't stealing. Out of greed, he was trying to survive and support the people he cared about. "Thank you for telling me," Ethan said. I think I can help." The next day, Ethan returned to the store early. Brandon was already behind the counter, setting up for the morning rush. "We need to talk," Ethan said firmly. Brandon rolled his eyes. "Look, man, I don't have time for this." "Actually," Ethan said, pulling his business card from his wallet. "I think you do." Brandon froze, his eyes widening as he read the card. You're the CEO? That's right, Ethan said. And I know what you've been doing. Look, Brandon stammered. I didn't mean, I know why you did it, Ethan cut in. But giving away free stuff doesn't help your family. It only puts this store and your job at risk. I was just, Brandon's voice wavered. I didn't know what else to do. I get that, Ethan said. But if this keeps up, you won't have a job left to help your mum. So what now? Brandon asked quietly. Are you firing me? Ethan studied Brandon carefully. He saw someone who wasn't bad, just desperate. That depends, Ethan said slowly. I'll give you one chance, but only if you're willing to earn it. I'll do whatever it takes, Brandon said firmly. I swear. Here's the deal, Ethan explained. I'll let you keep your job, but I want you to help fix things. Fix what? Brandon asked. The store, Ethan said. I need someone to step up, take responsibility, and help build this place back up. If you're willing to put in the work, I think you could be that person. Brandon's face shifted from fear to determination. I'm in, he said. Good, Ethan replied. Let's get started. Act 2. Turning things around. The morning after Ethan's ultimatum, Brandon arrived at Quick Mart earlier than usual. He walked in with his sleeves rolled up, determined to prove he was serious about fixing things. All right, Brandon said, finding Ethan near the register. Where do I start? Right here, Ethan said, placing a clipboard on the counter. You're going to learn this store inside and out. Inventory, stocking, customer service, everything. Brandon scanned the list. This is a lot. I know, Ethan said firmly, but I'm trusting you to make this work. Brandon's first few days were rough. Managing the morning rush overwhelmed him. Juggling customer requests while balancing the register proved harder than he expected. One morning, a frustrated customer slammed a soda on the counter. This expired last week, the man barked. I'm sorry, Brandon stammered. I'll grab a fresh one. Afterward, Ethan quietly approached Brandon. You can't fix mistakes by panicking, he said. Stay calm and focus on solutions. I'm trying, Brandon muttered. I just don't want to mess this up. I get that, Ethan said. But if you want to earn trust, you've got to keep your head straight, no matter what. Determined to improve, Brandon stayed late every night, organizing shelves, learning inventory codes, and studying Quick Mart's policies. One afternoon, Mr. Douglas, a retired veteran and regular customer, walked in and struggled to carry a large stack of groceries. Here, Brandon said, stepping out from behind the counter. Let me help you. That's mighty kind, Mr. Douglas chuckled. Didn't expect that. We're working on making this place better, Brandon replied with a smile. Starting now. Moments like this started to earn Brandon respect from regulars, people who once dismissed him as lazy or unreliable. One evening, while Brandon was restocking shelves, his old friend Tyler strolled in, the same friend Brandon had given a discount 2 weeks earlier. Yo, Tyler smirked. Hook me up again. Brandon froze. I can't do that anymore. Come on, Tyler urged. It's just a couple bucks. I can't, Brandon said firmly. If you're short on cash, I'll buy you a snack, but no more shortcuts. Tyler scoffed. Man, you've changed. Yeah, Brandon said quietly. I needed to. A few nights later, while Brandon was cleaning the back storage room, Ethan rushed in with a tense expression. The system's down, Ethan said. None of the card readers are working. We're losing customers fast. I can fix this, Brandon said, grabbing a troubleshooting guide. Moments later, Brandon knelt beside the card reader, following the guide step by step. This won't work, Rachel muttered nearby. We'll have to close the store. We're not closing, Brandon said firmly. I can fix this. After several tense minutes, the screen blinked back to life. It's working, Rachel gasped. Customers returned to the counter and transactions resumed. Nice work, Ethan said later that evening. You kept your cool. That's leadership. The following week, Ethan gathered the staff for a team meeting. This place is more than just a store, he told them. It's part of this community. People trust us because we take care of them. And that starts with taking care of each other. He turned to Brandon. Brandon's proven that anyone willing to change can make a difference. And that's exactly what I want for this store. People who care. Brandon smiled faintly, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. For the first time, he believed he was part of something bigger than just a job. The weeks following Brandon's turnaround brought noticeable improvements to Quickmart. Shelves were better stocked, customers felt welcomed again, and employees seemed more engaged. Yet, despite the progress, Brandon still felt like he was walking a tightrope. One wrong step could erase everything he'd worked for, but soon, his biggest test yet would arrive. It started with a memo from corporate. Ethan posted it in the break room. Corporate audit scheduled for next week. The message was clear. Auditors would inspect the store's inventory, records, and staff performance. For most employees, it was routine. But for Brandon, it felt like a final judgment. Any mistake could cost him his second chance. You'll be fine, Ethan assured him. Just stick to what you've been doing. But Brandon wasn't convinced. That afternoon, Brandon was restocking shelves when Tyler, his old friend, returned. Look who's playing manager now, Tyler sneered. So, gonna hook me up again or what? I told you, Brandon said firmly. That's done. Come on, Tyler pressed. Corporate's coming next week, right? Why not shave a little off the books to make things balance out? No one will know. Brandon shook his head. I'm not doing that. Suit yourself, Tyler muttered. But remember, people like you, they never get ahead. As Tyler left, Brandon clenched his fists. Doubt began to creep in. What if Tyler was right? What if none of his hard work really mattered? Later that evening, a delivery truck arrived, but the driver seemed rushed. I'm behind schedule, he muttered, unloading crates rapidly. Brandon signed for the shipment and started checking boxes. And that's when he noticed it. 2 cases of energy drinks were missing. Wait, Brandon called out, hurrying after the driver. I think you forgot some boxes. The driver shook his head. Nah, man, everything's accounted for. But Brandon paused, unsure what to do. He knew those missing crates would throw off the inventory count during the audit. And Ethan would blame him. Maybe Tyler's right, Brandon muttered to himself. I could just adjust the numbers. No one would know. But then he thought of his mom, the late nights she worked to keep their family afloat, and how Ethan had believed in him when no one else would. No, Brandon whispered. I'm not cutting corners. The next morning, Brandon approached Ethan. I need to tell you something, he said nervously. He explained the missing crates and how it would hurt their inventory numbers. I was worried you'd... Think I messed up? Brandon admitted. But I figured you'd rather know the truth. Ethan nodded slowly. I'm glad you told me, he said. That's exactly what leadership looks like. Owning your mistakes and finding solutions. Together, they called the supplier and confirmed the missing crates were left on the truck by mistake. By the next day, the shipment had arrived, just in time for the audit. You handled that perfectly, Ethan told Brandon. I'm proud of you. When the corporate auditors arrived, Brandon felt his nerves spike. As they walked the aisles, inspected records, and questioned staff, Brandon braced for the worst. But when the audit was complete, the lead auditor shook Ethan's hand. This store's running better than most we've seen, she said. It's clear your staff knows what they're doing. Brandon exhaled in relief. He'd done it. And this time, it wasn't because of shortcuts. It was because he'd earned. That evening, Ethan called Brandon into his office. I think it's time we made things official, Ethan said, sliding an envelope across the desk. Inside was a name tag that read, Brandon, Shift Supervisor. You've proven yourself, Ethan said. and I can't think of anyone better for the job. Brandon's voice wavered. Thank you for believing in me. No, Ethan replied. Thank you for believing in yourself. As Brandon walked out of the office that night, he knew this wasn't just a promotion. It was proof that second chances could lead to something better. Brandon's promotion to shift supervisor brought new challenges and new responsibilities. For the first time, employees turned to him for guidance. Customers asked for his help. And whenever something went wrong, it was his problem to fix. Despite the pressure, Brandon embraced the role. He was determined to prove that Ethan's faith in him wasn't misplaced. Brandon started by focusing on what mattered most: earning respect. He knew some employees still doubted him, especially after his past mistakes. Why should we listen to you? One cashier, Mike, muttered one afternoon. You're just some guy who almost got fired. You're right, Brandon admitted. I messed up before, but I'm here to fix that. Give me a chance and I'll prove it. We'll see, Mike muttered, but his tone softened slightly. Determined to win over his team, Brandon began working longer hours, filling gaps in schedules, and volunteering to cover difficult shifts. When one of the cashiers, Riley, called out sick unexpectedly during a weekend rush, Brandon jumped behind the register, managing both customer orders and keeping inventory stocked. You didn't have to do all that, Riley said when she returned. You could have just told Mike to handle it. I'm not here to pass problems on to someone else, Brandon said with a smile. We're a team, and teams stick together. One evening, as Brandon was closing the store, Tyler returned, this time looking anxious. I need your help, Tyler muttered. I'm short on rent, just until next week. Brandon's stomach knotted. I can't, he said carefully. I can't risk my job. Come on, man, Tyler insisted. I know you can just adjust a few things on the register. Brandon shook his head. Not anymore. Fine, Tyler snapped. Guess you're just like everyone else now. No, Brandon replied. I'm finally doing the right thing. Tyler stormed out, leaving Brandon uneasy, but he knew he'd made the right choice. A week later, a powerful thunderstorm hit the area, cutting off power to half the town, including the Quick Mart. Brandon knew the locals depended on the store for essentials, especially during emergencies. We need to get the generator running, Brandon told Ethan over the phone. People are going to need supplies. I trust you, Ethan replied. Do what you have to. Brandon quickly organized his team, guiding them to check expiration dates on perishable items and place critical supplies, like batteries, bottled water, and canned food, near the entrance for easy access. We can only accept cash until the system's back up, Brandon told his staff. Let's make sure we're helping people as fast as we can. For hours, the store operated by flashlight as customers trickled in, grateful for what they could buy. Brandon's calm leadership kept everything running smoothly. Near closing time, a woman named Mrs. Garrison arrived, flustered and anxious. Please, she begged Brandon. I need baby formula for my grandson, but I don't have enough cash. Brandon hesitated. Technically, store policy required full payment, but in that moment, he knew what was right. Take it, Brandon said, pressing the formula into her hands. Come back and pay when you can. Tears welled in Mrs. Garrison's eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I won't forget this. The next morning, power was restored, and Ethan returned to the store. I heard what you did, Ethan said. Letting that woman take formula without paying, that was risky. I know, Brandon said, but I couldn't just say no. You did the right thing, Ethan replied with a smile. That's the kind of leadership this place needs. A week later, Ethan called a staff meeting. Employees gathered in the break room, curious about what was coming. I want to recognize someone who's proven that leadership isn't just about following rules. It's about knowing when to step up, Ethan said. Brandon, you've done that, and more. To Brandon's surprise, Ethan handed him a certificate. Brandon, store manager. Me, Brandon stammered. But I still have a lot to learn. That's what makes you the right choice, Ethan said proudly. You care, and that's what this place needs most. The staff clapped, and even Mike patted Brandon's shoulder with a grin. Guess you're not so bad after all. A few days later, Mrs. Garrison returned, her grandson giggling in her arms. She handed Brandon an envelope with enough cash to cover the formula, and a little extra. I can't take this, Brandon said. It's too much. You didn't just give me formula that night, Mrs. Garrison said. You gave me hope. Consider this my way of saying thank you. Brandon tucked the envelope into the store's donation jar, the one marked Help a Neighbor Fund, and smiled. That's what this place is all about, Brandon said softly. Helping people. As Brandon turned back to his team, the store now buzzing with life, he knew that this wasn't just a job anymore. It was a place where he finally belonged. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories of hope, redemption, and second chances.